Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did? Looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. And I'm still standing.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on nootropics, on testosterone, on using anything that we have within reason that's legal to make us feel, perform, and function awesomely. I am your host, Ryan Michael Bell. Thanks so much for being with me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the bell to get notified of the content that I'm pushing out. And you really should just get the YouTube app, because then YouTube says, hey, Ryan is live, or Ryan just pumped out a new video. A couple products support this broadcast. I'll explain them at the end of the video, but super quickly. Number one, the Cortex Nootropic Stack. This is a nootropic: motivation, mental energy, verbal fluency. Down in the description below. And secondarily, the most purchased nootropic stack on the internet, blown up since we launched it, Torque. This is 6 to 8 hours of fire blood. Get them at livecortex.com, down below in the description. Okay, friends. So I want to talk about my five best or top non-nootropic nootropics, like nootropic-esque chemicals that aren't actually nootropics. And I think this is important because what nootropics are best used as, the best use case, is having a really, really optimized baseline, doing things that optimize brain function anyway, that make you feel pretty awesome most of the time. And then you take yourself to 180% using nootropics. Like that, if you really want to feel what it feels like for like that Bradley Cooper Limitless feeling, that's how you should be operating. And there are many things that you can do to achieve that great baseline state, wherein nootropics on top of that make it so much better. And I want to explain 5 of them. The first of them is salt, okay? Salt intake and proper salt intake. An army buddy of mine recently said to me, which I thought was super true and a good phrase, salt is a PED, which is a performance-enhancing drug, but it's salt, right? In that, like, pre-workout, post-workout, generally in terms of energy, it just turns your brain on in a very markedly noticeable way. Like, I'll take some sea salt in some cases if I feel like I need it. And like, you kind of got to be able to gauge that before the gym, and I feel better. Like, my workouts, I'm able to push a little further. My brain energy is maxed when I have the right amount of salt. And I made the mistake years ago of not paying attention to salt and almost believing the guidelines were specific to every human on the planet, which is absurd, and not consuming a lot of salt or enough salt when I was pushing myself really hard at the gym and in terms of cardio. And that was a mistake. Like, I had to eat salt thereafter pretty consistently in order to feel better. So salt is a great cognitive enhancing compound. In fact, the literature supports that lower blood sodium levels, and especially hyponatremia, which is just chronic, consistent low blood sodium, is associated very clearly with cognitive decline. Okay, so in some sense, if you don't want cognitive, degeneration over time, consume the right amount of salt for your body, and that's different for different people. And overall, understand that salt is a neurological enhancing compound, a PED in its own right. Don't skimp on salt. Number 2, this is important. I'm going to name a couple really critical anti-inflammatories that affect brain chemistry. The first of them is liposomal glutathione. Okay, so brain-available, bioavailable glutathione that's going to scavenge free radicals in the brain and reduce oxidative damage. And there's many things that cause you to have oxidative damage, including alcohol. So if you're consuming alcohol, you're kind of damaging brain cells. There's no way around that. Liposomal glutathione is a great strategy for that, but also doing that, taking it and reducing oxidative damage in the brain should help you function better, right? It's a non-nootropic nootropic, whether it's clearing brain fog or making you think a little faster. It definitely helps. Secondly, alpha lipoic acid, massively underrated, does have some cholinergic activity, but largely a brain antioxidant that gives you brain levels of glutathione. Okay, that's like master detox chemical in your body that your body's supposed to make in adequate quantities, but you may need to produce more depending on your toxicant exposure or intake. And these days, it's like, who the hell knows, right? So take alpha lipoic acid. Lastly, though, I've been saving this one. Neem leaves. Neem leaves have anti-inflammatory effects comparable to cortisone. Okay? Let me say that again. For those of you that understand what cortisone is, if not, please Google it. Anti-inflammatory effects comparable to cortisone. I've had inflammatory conditions in my life. Let's just couch it there. And neem has been substantially, markedly, noticeably useful for clearing the brain fog that those inflammatory conditions created. If you're just a regular Joe and you're wondering why you have brain fog, you have to really look into what's causing it. But if there's an inflammatory response happening, take neem and see if it gets better. Even at baseline, there's things that are causing inflammation in your brain more than likely. If you take neem, a couple capsules of a run-of-the-mill neem supplement, you're more than likely going to feel clearer, right? It will help your brain to function better. So number 2, that's a kind of a collection of things, is neurological anti-inflammatories that have literature behind them that support the idea that they are reducing inflammation in your brain. Thirdly, is Ginkgo. Now, Ginkgo doesn't get talked about a lot in the nootropics community because people go, I think newbies to nootropics are like, well, what are nootropics? Like guarana and Ginkgo, and people are like, oh, I know of that. It's in energy drinks and whatever. And so they overlook like this whole complex like neurotransmitter modifying system of nootropics and think of nootropics like Ginkgo or something. Totally not. But Ginkgo, in addition to enhancing blood flow, also increases extracellular dopamine and noradrenaline without affecting serotonin. Okay, so this is actually pretty critical for a good brain state that's motivated, energized, but not apathetic, right? So like interested in your work, because extra serotonin makes you apathetic, right? It makes you sort of like meh about everything, right? So Ginkgo enhances blood flow to the brain as well as enhancing the profile of the neurotransmitters dopamine and noradrenaline. Okay, so if you're looking to increase general brain function and want more alertness and motivation, you ought to try taking Ginkgo because it's a pretty rad supplement. Number 4, and this is kind of a curveball that I don't think a lot of people talk about or would see coming, P5P. P5P. This stuff is actually pretty remarkable. Like, I've used it with clients to lower not particularly troubling prolactin, but higher above the reference range prolactin. P5P is basically vitamin B6 in a more potent bioavailable form. And what it's doing specifically is making you synthesize more dopamine, okay? So if you want to make more dopamine from precursor, which is tyrosine, like in your diet or supplementally, take P5P. I would dose it 100 to 200 milligrams a day. A lot of folks can't tolerate that upper echelon because it tends to make you overstimulated because it's synthesizing a lot of dopamine, and it is extremely effective at doing so. Okay, P5P is number 4 on my list of non-nootropic nootropics. Lastly, testosterone. But everybody knows testosterone is like a nootropic. But not only, but here I want to kind of explain something that's a lot more impressive that I don't think a lot of people know, which is very useful for neurological function. We know that most of the literature supports testosterone being both an anxiolytic, so an anti-anxiety compound, and an antidepressant, right? Reduces depression and reduces anxiety. Pretty fucking remarkable as it is. But what a lot of people don't know, and what I don't think you guys know, so I want to tell you, is that testosterone actually increases this interesting process called cerebral perfusion. Cerebral perfusion. And cerebral perfusion is the process by which your body delivers oxygen to brain tissues. Okay? There's this thing called I think it's called the cerebral perfusion gradient. Cerebral perfusion pressure, right? And that's essentially the force that determines how much oxygen gets delivered to brain tissues. And look, just to give you some context, when you have brain fog, it could be many things, but in some cases, it's a lack of oxygen in the tissues of your brain cells, in your brain tissues. You have more oxygen there, you'll function better. You'll feel better on your feet. Your brain's going to work quicker. Testosterone, in addition to being an anxiolytic and an antidepressant, increases cerebral perfusion. Like, this is pretty remarkable. Now, the literature on this comes directly from TRT. Okay, so replacement therapy, like actual therapeutic testosterone replacement. But I would wager, and it's not, out of the books to suggest that it could happen if you just have high levels of testosterone, because that's what testosterone does. Dude, I can't stress enough to men, if your test is below 600, get it to 800 plus fast. If you don't know where it is, you must go to discounted labs and buy a total testosterone and a free testosterone test and go get it tested at Quest. You need to understand where it is. And you need to work diligently at keeping it at the level where you function really awesomely and you feel awesomely in the sexual department, as well as in the energy and conquer fucking life department, right? When you've got high test, you want to conquer things. That's just how it is. And you're going to have better oxygen delivered to your brain tissue, which is a nootropic in and of itself, my friends. All right. So those are my top 5 non-nootropic nootropics. There are plenty more, but I wanted to make it succinct and simple for you folks. I'll run through them again. Number 1, salt. Salt is a PED. Don't skimp on salt. Number 2, anti-inflammatories that affect brain chemistry. Neem is the most prominent of them. Yes, glutathione. And yes, alpha-lipoic acid, but neem is a very powerful brain anti-inflammatory. Number 3, ginkgo. Don't overlook ginkgo. It'll create extracellular dopamine and noradrenaline at higher levels than usual without affecting serotonin, which creates a great mood and motivated energy. Number 4, P5P, okay? Don't overlook P5P. It's actually a really impressive supplement. I mean, like whoever decided to take B6 and turn it into a more bioavailable version to synthesize more dopamine is like a genius because the shit actually does work. And for me, if I take too much of it, it potently overstimulates you. So that's like a case for efficacy. And 5th, of course, testosterone. If you're not paying attention to test, you got to raise it, guys. It's got to be high. You have to find your number that you feel function and perform awesomely without side effects. And mine's like 900, 950. Anything above that, I get side effects. Below that, I don't perform as well. Okay, so find your number and do all those 5 things because they're non-nootropic nootropics. Because in the end, nootropics are a great cherry and whipped cream and like sprinkles because they're more than just a cherry on top of the fucking sundae or the cake. But like, you got to have a really, really awesome sundae in order for the cherry on top to be like, you know, enjoyable. If I've given you a proper analogy, okay? Baseline optimization should be one of your major life goals because, you know, your productivity, your happiness, like your ability to enjoy things in life, your ability to get things done, your ability to be an effective, competent adult relies almost solely on the functioning of your brain. That is why I talk about brain stuff all the time, and that's what I learned at a very young age. And I was like, shit, if I could just make my brain function well pretty much all the time, I'll have a great life. And that's how it's been, okay? Thank you so much for watching, guys. As I said in the beginning of this broadcast, a couple products support what we're doing here, and they are the following. They're epic nootropic products to pay attention. Number 1, Cortex nootropic stack. I mean, if you want an actual nootropic that will make your brain fire on all cylinders, in terms of motivation, brain fluidity, energy, and that drive to want to do stuff, as well as verbal fluency, get Cortex. It is the only potent dopamine supplement out there on the market that actually works, right? There's a lot of nootropics out there purporting themselves to be like the limitless pill or whatever. Largely all bullshit. You know, this is clinically backed stuff in Cortex, and you can buy it at livecortex.com, my website, or down below in the description is the link. Secondarily, a different stack, but comparable, but stronger, is Torque. And that is why it's the most purchased nootropic stack on the web. I mean, look, people want 6 to 8 hours of fire blood, you know, wolf's blood. They want to be able to take a couple capsules 5 or 6 days a week because Torque is a sustainably built stack. So you can actually take it consistently and it should not reduce efficacy. Motivation, energy, the will to do stuff, brain fluidity, memory, like having a fully functional cognition that allows you to perform at your max. I mean, that's life, dude. If you want to get a lot done, you need to perform really well. And we built Torque for that, and the market has responded. We sell out of inventory quick, and then we have to just keep rolling inventory in. It's kind of insane. Like we're gearing up to do like a large 5,000 bottle purchase because inventory just comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes. Buy Torque before it runs out, livecortex.com. Link is down in the description below. 6 to 8 hours of fire blood. If you'd like to work with me, I'm the world's foremost expert in facilitating cognitive function for professionals mainly, but also athletes, famous actors have hired me. Look, I mean, if you've got the budget and you want to work with me to design your regimen using nootropics and other compounds, as well as optimizing testosterone if we need to, hire me. We've got consulting programs, and you can find them at livecortex.com, the consultations tab on the menu. I am usually always available. I'm half booked at this point, so there are slots open. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. I will chat with you very soon, and I'll talk to you next time.